Hey folks, welcome. Make sure I got all my sound working there right and the video and so forth. You know what, we'll just start over here. Hey, I'm glad you could join me today. Uh, we're going to have just a little bit of fun. Hopefully kind of understand a little bit about why we do what we do in business today, especially given what we talked about last week. Now, as a quick summary. As a quick summary, remember, last week we talked about how, hey, Isoma. Oh, Isom, oh, wow. Hey, great to have you with us. So last week we talked about how land became a thing. I mean, land has always been around. We get it. We're stuck to it. It's called gravity. But in terms of a revenue-generating asset, land became kind of this new thing, as well as labor. In the past, you did one of two things. You either did what tradition told you did, because your family has always done it for ages and ages and ages, or you were a slave or an indentured servant or something like that. Morning, Eliza, how are you? So we've now got land and labor happening, and people are making money off of land and labor of other people. So here's the thing. You always make money off of your labor. You've always made money off your labor. But now we're making money off of the labor of other people. And land has always been an asset that we enjoyed, but now we are really generating mega revenue from this asset. Now, this sounds a little confusing. Let me show you what I mean today. We are going to talk, supposedly we're going to talk about the Industrial Revolution. We're really not going to talk about the Industrial Revolution. We're going to talk about the principles that it brought into play, namely efficiency and economies of scale and laissez-faire and things like that. So remember, not a history class. We're not talking about the Industrial Revolution. We're talking about the philosophies that came about as a result, right? Eliza, you know what, Eliza? So I've always, ever since we started this, I've been trying to remember, is it Eliza or Elisa? Thank you for correcting me. Thank you. Tyler, great to have you along. So to start this off, I'm going to do two parts of the reading, 2 slides, 2 parts of the readings. It's going to look like I'm talking about ancient history. I am not, okay? So put your brain in the state of, I'm going to read something that is from history, but bring it to modern times. You know that's how we run this deal, so let's play with this, okay? So here we go. Let's do our whole business stuff here. All right. Spinning jennies. I know you're like right away. We're going spinning jennies. What the hell? All right. Textiles. Let's say that we're making textiles. And spinning jennies, well, they're these big old huge machines like what we see here, right? This is a loom, and then there's spinning jennies and so on and so forth. It makes the textiles, okay? And everybody had one of these in their home, or, well, every neighborhood, every 2 or 3 homes had a spinning jenny, and we would make our own clothes, all right? But check this out. Remember, I want you to think about this in modern times. Spinning jennies could be used in the household of the weaver. Think a machine used in the home of the producer. But later, spinning jennies were so large and cumbrous that they could not be used in a dwelling house and required so much power and rapidity of motion that human strength was scarcely available. So now they're getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and you need more and more power to run these things. Okay? So next part of the reading. The new industry required bodies of laborers working regular hours under control of their employers and the buildings where the machines were placed and power provided. Okay, so now you're sitting here thinking, I know, Lon, we studied Industrial Revolution in high school. What the hell? All right, we're going to play with some ideas here. We're going to do this a couple of times. First, I want you to give me an example of how this principle over the last, 20 years, whatever, is still at play, okay? In other words, we're not doing great, big, huge spinning jennies that need to be attached to water wheels for power and everybody coming into that factory to use these big spinning jennies. What are we doing today? And we're even going to, the second part of this will be modern times, but bear with me, right? What's the modern equivalent of this? Okay? What's the modern equivalent of people going into a factory to use these great big machines? And it could be a factory, right? I just want you to make some connections with today, because then we're going to start challenging this and seeing how things are changing. So let's go ahead and do a 2-minute timer and play with this. Okay, let's start playing with this. So we have Elisa first, who says the first thing, and let's get our little cool light bulbs going here. First thing I think of is the concept of working from home, which is kind of the opposite of what's happening with the weaving and has been changing people. Okay, Elisa she's going on to phase 2. That's where I wanted to take this. So let's go ahead and take it there, because she's taking us there. So check this out. For the longest time, like for the last 100 years, people had to leave home to go to work. Now, if they worked in a factory, that's because that's where the machines were. If they worked at a bank, that's because that's where the money and all that sort of stuff was. If they worked in the professional sector, that's because where the offices were, where the computers were, that's where the power was, and that's where the trunk line, they call it a trunk line, meaning the internet, but it's this great big huge line that really feeds an office building in terms of internet. So if you have a nice little cable running into your home, these buildings are built on trunk lines so that companies can have all this internet access. And then where their telephony is, telephones, things like that. But now, folks, over the last 10 years, what do you have available at the office? And let's think white collar for a moment. What do you have available at the office that you don't have available at home? Now, this is where Tyler was going, right? He says, I was thinking remote work. Now there's a push to return to in-person working. Here, this is where we're going. So right now, let me tell you, I have in my home high-speed internet, power, 2 offices, several computers, and Zoom capability, and so on and so forth. There is nothing that I need to go to the office for because I don't have it at home. In fact, I have far more at home than I have at the office, right? I have studios, for crying out loud. I have set design. I have technology here. I ought to get my camera so I can show you. I have technology here that the office doesn't even know exists. So I am actually in a better position to provide my product from home than I am at the office. And this isn't just lawn at Salt Lake Community College. This is the case in many cases. Now, in the past, there were barriers to entry. If you wanted to make TV shows, well, there were barriers to entry. If you wanted to be a TV producer, if you wanted to be a movie producer, there are barriers to entry. If you wanted to be a publisher, there are barriers to entry. All the barriers to entry are gone. They're all gone. You can make movies and TV shows with one of these, dead serious, not kidding. And you can publish it on YouTube and all other places, and it's great. So notice how there's been this shift that originally we were working from home because that's where we had our equipment. But then we had to go to factories because that's where we had more efficient equipment. But now we're starting to go back home because that's where we have further, more efficient equipment. Interesting. Well, now, as Tyler points out here, there's a real push to bring people back to the office. We're going to talk about that. Just so you know, it doesn't have anything to do with productivity. I'm sorry. They'll tell you it has something to do with productivity. It doesn't. You're plenty productive at home. Plenty productive. We're going to talk about that today. Okay, so you see where this is going. Once again, not a history class. We're going to bring it to modern times because it's going to help us understand what's happening today based on old world thinking. Old world thinking. Okay, let's keep going. So, in the past, government would pretty much decide who does what kind of work, right? Thus, the structure of regulatory industry, which had been built upon the 16th and 17th centuries, or which had survived the Middle Ages, was now torn down. You couldn't force people to do the sort of work that you think needed to be done, either through tradition or command, right? Tradition meaning last name is Schiffbauer, you're a shipbuilder. Command being slavery, indentured servitude, things like this. Caste systems and so forth. The use of powers of government to make men carry on their economic life in a certain way, to buy and sell, labor and hire, manufacture and cultivate, export and import only in such ways as thought to be best for the nation, seem to be entirely abandoned. Okay, what's this talking about? It says, listen, in the past, things were pretty controlled. Lords and fiefdoms and rulers would decide who would do what kind of work, how much was produced, and so forth. But now things are just going unfettered, which means we're going to talk about laissez-faire, all right? Laissez-faire is a French term. It means leave be, leave alone. Essentially, it means don't regulate. So if in the past the government or the powers or society would decide what everybody did and how much they did, now it's like no one decides. Just let the free market decide and great things will come about. So nobody should decide what you do for a living. No one should decide what kind of business you start. No one should decide what kind of products you buy. It's just everybody gets to do what they feel is best for themselves. Now, let's explore this concept. Let's start with the reading, and we're going to break this definition down a little bit and play with it, okay? According to this theory, economic adjustments follow certain natural laws, which can be depended upon to work to the ultimate advantage of humanity, and these laws should be allowed to function without interference. In other words, an economy is a natural ecosystem. Don't mess with it, just leave it alone. It will find its equilibrium. Okay, now let's break this down a little bit. I want you to type in, and we'll do 2 minutes, but I'll come back before 2 minutes because you're going to do it super quick. When you think of the word natural, just tell me what you think when you think natural. Natural. Just pretend like it's a Rorschach test, right? Day, night, black, white, heaven, hell, natural. What does natural mean to you? Okay, let's come on back to this. You're totally overthinking it, but Tyler has got something here for us. He says natural means the world has already provided it. It's just naturally occurring. It is provided. We don't need to create it. It's already here. I like that. Elisa says, natural to me means what comes, and we got to hit a couple of these bad boys. What comes from nature, like dirt, trees, water, opposite of what would be artificial. Very nice. Okay. I also think that natural tends to have this positive connotation, all natural versus artificial, right? Zamara says, natural for me means something pure. Okay, right? I agree with you. It's something that is formed or created by unintentional means or natural means and so forth. So here, we'll do this one today. Okay, so natural, pure, unadulterated. If you see something at the store that's all natural, that would be better than something that's all artificial, right? Natural just kind of has this sense of, oh, natural is good, right? And I get it. Bubonic plague is also natural. Syphilis is natural. And yet we wouldn't put the same connotations to these things. There's this joke that basically says, our ancient ancestors, our caveman ancestors, they breathed fresh air every day. They got constant exercise. They all ate all organic food, and they died at the age 35, right? So the thing is, when we say something's natural, we tend to put this sort of unquestionably pure and good connotation to it. Okay, so bear that in mind. Keep that in mind. We're going to come back to it. All right, if we continue on, it says, depended upon to work to the ultimate advantage of humanity. Okay, something can work to the ultimate advantage of humanity, but you and I aren't humanity. We are individuals. Something that works to the ultimate advantage of humanity can still come at an individual cost. We're going to come back to this. These laws should be allowed to function without interference because they're natural, right? Okay. So check this out. Here's an example. We're not going to watch this video. If you want to, sometimes I recommend that you do. It's actually a really fascinating video. I like it a lot. I like this a lot. It talks about how they reintroduced wolves into Yellowstone National Park, wolves that have been taken out because ranchers didn't want them. And the effect that reintroducing wolves back into the natural ecosystem had. And this video posits that reintroducing wolves back into the park had a really positive effect in just about every way that you can imagine, including the behavior of the rivers. I know it sounds weird, but it makes sense. And so it's basically a video that says, you know what? Nature, leave it alone. Nature finds this perfect balance, this symbiotic equilibrium that allows all the species to thrive because it's in harmony. Nature is in harmony. By the way, I'm a big fan of nature. But you see where it's going is there's this sort of ethos about all natural nature, harmony, things like that. Okay. But here's and a lot of people would say laissez-faire in an economy is the same sort of thing. Just leave it be, let it do its own thing. Well, here's the thing, guys. We tend to really, what's the term? We really like to anthropomorphize Here, I'm going to go ahead and hide this for a moment. We like to anthropomorphize animals. And anthropomorphize means we attribute to animals human-like emotions and values and things of this nature. All right? And I get it. I love animals. I have animals, all that. But now check this out. Here's a couple of memes. Some animals are better than humans. In 2005, 3 lions rescued an Ethiopian girl who was kidnapped by men who wanted to force her into marriage, chasing off her abductors, protecting her until she was rescued by police. No, they didn't. No, they didn't. Okay? They were protecting their territory. Crap was going down in their area. They were scared. They were chasing off competitors. And if they could get a happy meal out of it, they would be happy to do that. It was just these people were in the wrong place. The lions were in the wrong place, and there was a clash. Okay? And if the lions were circling that girl until police arrived, it's because they were thinking of eating her. Okay? Yeah, it's a Disney movie, right? So now, continuing on, check out this one here. If having a soul means being able to feel love and loyalty and gratitude, then animals are better off than a lot of humans. Oh my holy hell. What the, how hateful do you need to be of humans? I get it. But now, watch this, because they're natural. They're all natural. Now, if I were to ask you, and don't worry, we're not going to go to 2 minutes on this. And by the way, we need one more of these little. There we go. If I were to ask you what species kills its own kind more than any other, I'd be willing to bet dollars to donuts you'd say the obvious one. Us. Killing our own kind. That's kind of what we're known for. My friends, we are hardly even on the map. Let me tell you about natural animals. Nature, right? You want a species that kills its own kind more than any other, you're talking about meerkats. Meerkats are murderous little things. Just about 20% of their population is killed off by their own kind. Every time, right? Sea lions, lions. Lions they kill cubs all the time. If a new male lion comes in and there's cubs around, those cubs are dead. If there's a competitor, that competitor is dead, or the old guy is dead. Lions kill their own kind all the time. Gazelles, what the hell's the deal with a gazelle? No, they do it constantly. Elisa's like, yeah, what the hell? What's the deal? Animals kill their own kind all the time. But it's natural, and they have souls, and they're so much better than us. Do you know the cuckoo bird? Do you know how cuckoo bird, and by the way, this is like the least atrocious way that some animals procreate. The cuckoo bird, let me tell you how and let's see. And by the way, we have a couple more light bulbs coming. Tyler says it's normally the cute, innocent ones who have a dark side to them, right? Yeah. So cuckoo birds, let me tell you about cuckoo birds, right? So here's how a cuckoo bird works. You got a cuckoo bird mommy, and she's got an egg in her, so she needs to lay the egg. So what's she going to do? Build a nest? Oh, to hell with that. That looks like work. Besides, if I build a nest and then lay the egg, then I need to take care of the baby. I'm not going to take care of the baby, says the mama cuckoo bird. I'm going back to Vegas and partying. So this is what the mama cuckoo bird does. She finds herself a reed warbler nest. Okay, the bird there up on top, that's the reed warbler. So the cuckoo mama finds a reed warbler nest, and she lays the egg in that nest, and then pieces out to Vegas. All right, so then that cuckoo chick hatches before all the other eggs, hatches first, and the first thing that cuckoo chick does, within moments, is force the other eggs out of the nest and tosses them out. Watch a YouTube video on it sometime. It's wild because there's a hollow in the cuckoo bird chick's back that allows the bird to kind of get up under the egg and force it on out. By the way, Elisa says, I read a book to my 5-year-old about cuckoo birds. I felt like I was low-key reading a horror movie. Ain't it the truth, right? Ain't it the truth? Here, let's make sure that we get that visible. Yes, okay. So, all the other birds, by the way, if one of the other reed warbler chicks hatches first for some reason, the cuckoo will kill it and then toss it out. So now the reed warbler mama comes back and sees this one big ass chick in her nest and says, well, I guess that's my chick. And she feeds it, and that's it. This is just one example of 18 trillion horrific things that happen in nature. And there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong. Nature is amoral. Okay? Amoral, meaning it's not moral or immoral. It is amoral. It is only us who looks at nature and says, well, we anthropomorphize. We say, oh, they behave so well and beautifully. And if you don't behave well and beautifully, you're an awful creature or whatever. Watch some mama monkeys fight over a baby monkey someday. Is it one of these here? The Jeffrey's spider monkey. They'll rip that baby apart. It's horrific. But that's nature. Okay, what, Lon, is the point of all this? The point is this, folks. Laissez-faire says just let the amoral system do what it does, and it will work to the ultimate advantage of all the species. And yes, let nature, an amoral system, just do what it will, and it finds a beautiful equilibrium. You and I are not amoral. We do not exist in an amoral economy. We have morals, we have ethics, we have values, we have virtues. We need to take care of one another and see after the individual. We can't make decisions that are for the ultimate advantage of humanity and just understand that we're going to crush a whole lot of individuals under our tread as we do so, and that's too bad, but you know what? It's laissez-faire. Now, some people actually do believe that that's just fine. I don't, but some people do, and they can make a solid argument. But that's my point for all of this, is that laissez-faire says, don't let ethics get in the way. Don't let morals get in the way. Don't let values get in the way. Just do whatever is in the ultimate advantage of you, and things will work out. We're going to go deeper into this in future lectures. Just letting you know, this is where that philosophy kind of starts. Okay, so it's like Thanos and the Avengers. Okay, Elisa, right away, you get 2, and you get a Spider-Man for that. You get 2 light bulbs because you cited the Avengers, and that is a seminal, credible source. Yes, it's exactly like that, right? Survival of the fittest. That's right, Tyler. And the thing is, survival of the fittest says if you're not fit, well, then you don't really deserve to survive. You're not made for this world. And, well, you know what? That's too bad. I'm not willing to buy into that philosophy. All right? Okay. All right. So, folks, we are now going to shift gears for a moment. We're still talking about laissez-faire and so forth, but I want to shift us from natural ecosystem and laissez-faire and amoral and all that, and I want to shift us to another mindset. All right? Here's our 2-minute question. All right? Let me set this one up. This one takes a little bit of setup. I apologize. All right? And let's get you guys hidden for a moment. Here it is. Okay. No, not that one. That one. Okay. Here it is. If you own your own business, you have a 10% chance of making more money than if you work for the man. If you work for the man, you have a 90% chance of making more money than if you ran your own business. So obviously, if money is your driver, it makes infinitely more sense to work for the corporate world than to run your own business. You have a 90% chance of making more money than if you ran your own business. Nevertheless, many people start their own business. Here is our 2-minute question. Why would you want to run your own business? If you know, and I'm telling you, that there's a good chance that you would make much more money working in the corporate world, why would you want to run your own business? Now, whether you want to or not, that's not the question. The question is, put yourself in the mindset of somebody who wants to run their own business, right? Why would you want to do this if you know you're not going to make as much money? So that's our 2-minute question. Okay, let's take a look at this. So, great. We've got, let's do Elisa's first. Running your own business usually isn't about making loads of money, although it would be a bonus to be sure, right? It's about being your own boss, doing things the way you want to do them, and the flexibility. Totally agree. Tyler goes on to say, most people look at look at it and want to see growth in themselves. Oh, I like that. Plus, they feel like they have a stronger purpose with their work. I really like that. That's another aspect is independence. Yes, yes. And we could go on and on and on, right? Oh, by the way, Zamara has something for us. I feel like there are many reasons. It could be because of passion, entrepreneurial urge. I like that, entrepreneurial urge. People like being their own boss, the journey of it all. They want to offer something and they want to do it in their own way. Yes. I'm going to do 2 light bulbs for that, Zamara, because that is a big deal for me. I want to do it my own way. You can all go to hell. I want to do it my own way. Okay. All right. So, you're right. Of course you're right. Right. Of course I'm right. That's from Fiddler on the Roof. So then, bearing this in mind, I just set the stage. Let's go back to our readings. Okay? So, the laissez-faire view of government was to all appearances becoming entirely dominant, right? So just use people as you need to because it's a natural ecosystem and it's going to work for the ultimate advantage of humanity. No regulation, use people up, okay? Even those who were supposed to have reaped the advantages of the changes of the many unpleasant phenomena appeared. Let's go on to the next one. I'll tell you what that means, okay? The farm laborers were not worse, perhaps were better off on average in the matter of wages than those of the previous generation. Okay, in other words, all right, remember, we used to have farmers, right? They farmed their land for generation and generation, and then some guy with a big gun says, that's my land, I've decided, and I'm going to build a factory on it, and you're no longer a farmer, you're a factory worker. That's just the way it is. And so the factory workers out there working, who used to be a farmer, and actually the factory workers making more money. As a factory worker, they're making more money than they did as a farmer. As a subsistence farmer, well, that's why it's called a subsistence farmer. You're just subsisting, right? As a subsistence farmer, you can raise your family and so on and so forth, but you're not making money. You're just living hand to mouth year after year. Now you're a factory worker. You're actually kind of making some money. Oh, so it's all good, right? You guys already answered this freaking question. But they were more completely separated from the land than they had ever been before, more completely deprived of those wholesome influences which came from the use of even a small portion of land, and of the incitement to thrift that comes with the possibility of rising. I really like that last clause. The incitement to thrift that comes with the possibility of rising. In other words, if you're working for the man, what incentive do you have to be efficient, to find good, smart, cheaper ways of doing what it is you want to do? Because remember, and actually, no, it's not remember, it's going to come up in a future lecture. The more efficient you are, the more money your employer is making, not more money you are making. Okay, let me explain. All right, let's say that you're paid by the hour. You're paid $10 an hour. I know you're probably paid $15 an hour, but I'm just going to say 10. $10 an hour. You're paid $10 an hour. And you produce 100 widgets in that 10 hours. But let's say that you find a way that you are really efficient and really good and really skilled, and you can make 120 widgets in an hour, all right? You're still paid $10 an hour. So then who benefits from the extra 20 widgets that you produced in that hour because you are efficient, you're skilled, you're competent, and you're good at what you do? The employer benefits. So as the reading is saying here, Edward Cheney, he's like, who's going to find better, more efficient, profitable ways of doing things if they're not going to benefit? There's no possibility of rising. And so people are just going to kind of show up to work. Folks, I want you to internalize this for a moment. We just show up to work and do the bare minimum we need to not get fired. Now, I'm not talking about you. I'm not talking about me. I'm just saying, if I'm not going to benefit, if my business is not going to rise, if I'm not going to be rewarded or benefit from my additional work, if I'm not going to be recognized for it, what incentive is there for me to kill myself in the workplace if I'm not going to get anything for it? This is the problem that we are now running into, and we still have today, with industry, with employees and workers and managers and so forth. All right? You with me? I'm not saying it's you. I'm not saying it's me. I'm just saying this is the problem we're running into now. Okay, so what happens? Well, we're basically creating classes now. The working class and the ruling class. All right? Since the erection and operation of factories demanded two things, money for building and maintenance and mill hands to operate the power looms, England soon found herself with two major classes of society, that representing capital, the bosses, and that representing the labor, the employees, the employer and the employed. My friends, this is still going on today. So I watch these YouTube videos, right? I watch YouTube videos. And I was watching this thing that talks about the rich and the poor and mega companies and so on and so forth. Gosh, I can't really express it the right way because I'm trying to express a feeling more than what somebody said. But so I'll just say it, but it's not coming out as eloquently as I wish it were. This person was basically saying, hey, you know what? Somebody like Jeff Bezos deserves the $18 billion a minute that he earns because he created all this wealth. He created the business and now he's benefiting from it. Well, I'm not saying he didn't come up with a good idea, although I maintain it's the same idea the Vikings had, so it wasn't exactly novel. I'm not saying he didn't work his ass off. He did work his ass off. And I'm not saying he didn't risk a lot. He did risk a lot, but it was really mostly investors who risked a lot. And it worked. But he set down the foundation of the value that was created. The value that's created was created through the employees and the vendors and all of this. And the employees and the vendors are not the ones that are going off into space in a penis-shaped rocket ship. It's Jeff Bezos who is. So you understand there's still this tension between the worker whose wages have flattened and the ultra-rich who are continuing to go up. So this is not a history class. Let's see here. So Tyler says he had an idea. The people who worked for him created the business. Exactly. Now, again, he worked really hard, and it was a good idea, and a lot of people followed him, and that's fantastic. But to say that he created it, you show me a single person who ever got rich on their own. No, others helped. It's just the way it is. Okay. All right, so let's continue on. So this is where unions started to come into play. The industrial workers finally organized themselves into trade unions to fight the battles of adequate factory legislation. Thus, the older trade guilds gave way to the powerful trade unions. This is this is a fascinating, gosh, it's so interesting to me how we're always in a fascinating time. This is a fascinating time for unions right now, guys, right now. Because unions for a long time, very powerful and brought about a lot of wealth for workers. Then unions became very unpopular. They got full of themselves, corruption. They became corporations in and of themselves, looking after themselves rather than the worker, right? So it's almost like this full circle sort of thing. They became very unpopular. There were laws passed against them and so on and so forth. Now they're starting to go up through a resurgence because, and if I had the charts, I'd show you, it's because the ultra rich are getting rich and productivity is going up, and yet worker wages have been relatively flat in comparison. And that can't go on forever. It's unsustainable. And so now we're starting to see this resurgence of unions. Last couple of years, we saw the actors go on strike. We saw writers go on strike. We saw longshoremen go on strike. We saw strikes all over the place. And most of the time they got what they wanted because, frankly, there'd been such a delta between the wealth created and the wealth shared that, there needed to be some compensation. And same when it goes to, actors and AI and writers and likeness and all that. We won't go into all the details. But the point is, unions are kind of having a day, right? Having a moment. That's the term. They're having a moment right now. Okay, we're wrapping up. Here's our quotes. I have 2 quotes for Laissez-Faire. First quote is, "The man who accepts the laissez-faire doctrine would allow his garden to grow wild so that roses might fight it out with the weeds and the fittest might survive." So that's an anti-laissez-faire argument. On the other hand, if one rejects laissez-faire on account of man's fallibility and moral weakness, one must, for the same reason, also reject every kind of government action. In other words, you know what? If you say we have to have regulation because I don't trust people to make the right decisions in a laissez-faire environment, well, then you need to be dubious of government because you can't trust government to make the right decisions because of their own self-interest. So, as you see, both sides of the same coin, all right? So, guys, you did absolutely marvelously today. Go ahead and take the picture, but of course, you guys send me an email and we're good, but we're going to take care of you. As always, I'm going to stick around if you have any questions or comments or anything like that. Otherwise, we are all set. Great work. And go at it, and we'll see you again next week. Hope you have a fantastic rest of the week. Go off and make some trouble and make me proud. We'll see you later. Tyler says, through all this, one question that keeps coming to mind is how AI affects this, right? Oh, AI is going to be, what the hell am I saying? It's already a game changer, and yet it's just changing 1% of 1%, and it's already having massive effects. The economy and how we do work will not be the same 10 years from now. which is part of the whole freaking diatribe I go on. I hope I'm helping you. I really, really do. This is who I am and what I do, and I hope that by teaching and by encouraging you to think about things and make connections where connections may not be obvious, and to explore how principles might apply to you in the modern day, I hope I'm helping. But guys, I have no idea how you are going to be successful in the future, because the economy in which you are going to have to compete does not yet exist. The jobs that you are going to have do not yet exist. And the skills that are necessary for success may not even exist yet. So AI is going to be a massive game changer. And I hope I'm helping you, but don't think that we have all the answers here in colleges and universities. Zamara, you're welcome. Hope you have a great week. Yeah, scary stuff, Tyler, I'll tell you what. Elisa, we'll see you tonight. Have a good one. All right. Well, things are pretty quiet in the comments and so forth. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up. And yeah, if you're going to be at the work shift tonight, we'll see you tonight. Otherwise, we'll see you next week. Oh, by the way, Tyler says, I totally agree with that. Schooling right now is different. I use it in a way more often than I did a couple years ago. I'm glad to hear that. But yeah, very different. Very different. Okay. All right, guys. I'm going to go ahead and take off. And we'll see you tonight. Have a good one.